Helen, a middle-aged white woman, was walking in the park when she spotted a black man hastily passing by, holding a white girl in his arms. The man's name was Matthew, 30, and he appeared anxious, his eyes darting around. The girl, Annie, was 9 years old, with puffy red eyes and tear-streaked cheeks. Her small hands clutched tightly to his shirt. Helen, known for her keen observations and fondness for neighborhood gossip, couldn't ignore the scene unfolding before her. Recent reports of missing children flooded her mind. She halted, pulled out her phone, and called the police as she approached him. "Hey, you filthy kidnapper!" she shouted, blocking his path. "What are you doing with that girl? I've already alerted the cops." Annie recoiled, her quiet sniffles escalating into terrified sobs. Matthew adjusted his grip on her, speaking softly to reassure her. Although his tone remained calm, urgency marked his movements. "I didn't kidnap her," he stated firmly, trying to navigate around Helen. But she stood her ground, preventing his escape. "You're not going anywhere. The police are coming. You think you'll get away with this? We'll see about that." Matthew's jaw clenched, but he refrained from arguing. Meanwhile, Annie's cries grew louder, intensifying the palpable tension between them. The rapid flashes of red and blue lights soon illuminated the scene as a group of white officers quickly surrounded Matthew. "Put your hands up and step away from the girl," one officer instructed. Gently, Matthew lowered Annie to the ground and raised his hands in surrender. "I'm not a kidnapper. I'm trying to help her," he pleaded. One officer crouched down to Annie's eye level, asking, "Is this man your father?" Annie shook her head vehemently. Without waiting for further confirmation, the officers seized Matthew, twisting his arms behind his back. "Stop!" Matthew protested, fighting back against their hold. Fear coursed through him. He couldn't face arrest. In a bold move, he broke free, grasped Annie, and fled. Annie clung tightly to him, her arms wrapped around his neck, her sobs muffled against his chest. "Stop him!" Helen screamed as the officers chased after them, their shouts merging with the wails of sirens echoing throughout the park. An investigation quickly ensued, and recent data indicated that most of the missing children were black, with Annie being a rare exception. The fact that Matthew had fled fueled the officers' assumptions that he must be the kidnapper. They also knew that Annie's father, Dr. Thomas, was a prominent scientist, admired for his innovations and esteemed by the state. When Thomas arrived at the police station to file a report about his missing daughter, the officers felt the pressure to solve the case promptly gain his favor. Further inquiries revealed that Matthew worked as a doctor at Annie's school. A black man in a position like that? He must have gotten the job just to abduct children, one officer remarked. Another chimed in, "That damn criminal has no idea whose daughter he's messing with." Within a day, a nationwide manhunt was initiated for Matthew. A tip led the police to a warehouse on the outskirts, where they surrounded the area. The white police chief spearheaded a group ready to apprehend Matthew and Annie. What they discovered inside shocked them. Inside the warehouse were several malnourished black children, their eyes hollow from hunger, gazing fearfully at the officers. Regaining their composure, the police spotted Matthew kneeling beside one child with a syringe in hand, preparing to administer an injection. "Stop, you're under arrest," the chief yelled, aiming his weapon at Matthew. But Matthew did not yield. Just as the officers prepared to take action, Annie dashed in front of him, crying, "Please don't shoot. Let him help my friend." Her words froze everyone in place. Raised in luxury by her esteemed father, Annie had experienced loneliness since her mother's passing. Her father was often preoccupied, leading her to form a bond with Lena, a black child who worked in his factory, which exploited child labor and exposed them to toxic fumes daily. When Lena fell ill from poisoning, Annie pleaded with her father for help, but he callously ignored her. Now, Matthew had come to rescue Lena, understanding the risks involved, and even at gunpoint, Annie stood bravely between him and the officers. Lena received urgent care, and soon her breathing improved, bringing a smile to her face as she looked at Annie. Slowly, the officers lowered their weapons, Matthew, now calm, addressed the police. These children are victims of your scientist. His machines don't require precise parts, but rather delicate hands like theirs. They were taken to work daily, breathing toxic fumes, as a result of his greed. Please save them. As the truth began to unfold, a group of guards loyal to Dr. Thomas stormed in, creating a tense standoff. The lead guard sneered. Do you have a search warrant? Without one, we'll sue you. The police chief, standing firm, replied, Release the children. You're breaking the law. At that moment, Dr. Thomas appeared, coldly demanding, Annie, why did you go with that filthy black man? Annie hesitated, but answered softly, I just wanted him to help Lena. Thomas derided her response, stating, Help? He has no right. Those black children are nothing more than cheap labor to me. I'll dispose of them whenever I please. The chief could hold back no longer. These are children, not tools. You'll go to jail for this. Only then did Thomas notice the officers surrounding him, his face contorting with rage as he shouted, You can't arrest me. My masterpiece isn't finished yet. Why not use these black rats for my inventions? The officers, once in awe of the famed scientist, found themselves disillusioned by his twisted perceptions. The chief immediately ordered Thomas's arrest. As the guards were restrained, Thomas made a desperate attempt to escape, seizing Annie and pressing a scalpel to her throat. One more step, and I'll kill her, he threatened. The officers were momentarily stunned, but Annie, trembling initially, bit her father's hand with enough force to make him release her. She sprang towards Matthew, who stood ready with open arms. Just then, a shot rang out, hitting Thomas in the leg as he collapsed. Thomas faced numerous charges, including child abduction, exploitation, and endangerment, leading to his esteemed reputation being utterly destroyed, as he was sentenced to life in prison. The rescued children received the care they desperately needed, while Matthew, exonerated of false accusations, was celebrated as a hero. Annie approached Matthew and wrapped her arms around him in gratitude. He embraced her warmly, saying, Thank you. You've restored my faith in justice. To which Annie replied, No, you're the real hero. Although the case was closed, the light of truth and justice would shine eternal.